the discussion this morning. Like you may not have done the reading, but you won't be lost. It's not that kind of book.
Yeah.
So
Nice. I love it.
Mm-hmm.
It definitely gives you a different perspective of things, though. It's very good.
Because what you previously thought about something.
I'm good.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So we're on day 15.
we're on day. So today you will be reading. We're on day 22.
Day 22.
22.
So, well, today you will be reading day 22, but we're reviewing days 15 through 21.
Okay.
Each week is almost like a chapter.
Oh,
each,
wow.
each day is like the next one will be you were created to become like Christ, and that's all the days in that section, and then the next section.
Yeah.
Understand.
Because we're in purpose number 3 now, which
Okay.
will be day 22.
Yeah. So by next week you would be at day 28. So
Okay.
Saturday would be day
So
28.
it's like seven
7
days.
days, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, starting on
What
Sunday.
is that? You know, I really enjoyed day 20, Restoring Broken Fellowship.
Mhm.
Oh, that was really, really good.
Yeah.
And I don't have any, but I just, I thought it was just interesting how things happen, and then it did, did I have a part in this? What was my part in it and stuff?
Right.
And maybe maybe it wasn't all them, might have been me.
Right.
And it forces you to look at yourself, examine yourself, to see if you had a part in the breaking of the fellowship.
Each chapter does that.
Very good.
Yeah, very good. We were talking about that. We're not on this page now. We're not.
Not yet.
Oh, no, not yet.
We were talking one day this week, last week about that.
Mhm.
How this book, it really convicts you. I mean, it
It does. If you be honest with yourself,
look in the mirror.
it does.
And it's really like, it's really simple reading, right? And it's not really, it's not necessarily like, I'm not gonna say that the concepts aren't advanced, but what I'm saying is that most of what's being said we already know,
We already
right?
know.
You know what I'm saying? So it's very
Base.
simple reading, in terms of the concepts are simple, right?
Right.
I believe that, practicing what's being said is the harder part. Right?
Yeah.
That's,
Yeah.
that's where, what I'm saying, that's where,
That's where the rubber meets the road.
it's easy to say, well, we should forgive, and we
Right.
should love. You're like, well, yeah, I mean, that's great to
Everybody.
say,
To say,
right?
but
And I
hard
think,
to do sometimes.
yeah, and I think that's the convicting part of it is how simple the reading is, but also at the same time realizing maybe where I'm falling a little short in the simple stuff that
Yeah.
that I'm reading, right?
That's right.
And this week we're just gonna jump right in. This week we're talking about, it says you were formed for God's family. And so this particular set of chapters talks about us being family and our purpose in the body and being connected in the body, and we're also talking about how that relates to fellowship and being in true fellowship with one another, and also how it's very difficult to be truly connected to the body if you aren't fellowshipping or if you aren't willing to come together. And so
Right.
probably during this pandemic time of being able to not being able to there was a time where we were advised to stay home. We've always been able to stay home,
Yeah.
right?
Permission.
But being advised for safety reasons and things of that nature, and moving more into a virtual setting, and and for those that are still in the workforce, a lot of people have gone more into more remote working, which kind of overall, it begins to put you in a complete remote mindset. Everything is, kind of becomes remote to you,
Right.
right? Where, things are available to be streamed, all these, what I'm saying? So it continues to take your, unintentionally, it it kind of subliminally, takes your mind to a separate state, because I can do certain things by myself. I can do this alone. I can read alone. I can work alone. I can, whatever it is, right? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I can worship from home. I can work out from home, right? All these things, where you're like, where there's a video or there's a streaming or there's an app for everything. And so, talking about how we fellowship as Christians, it's hard to get out of that mindset, right? Because you're still feeling like, well, I'm connected, I'm watching, whatever.
Right.
Like I was talking to someone a couple of weeks ago, so I hadn't talked to him in a while, and so I was asking, do you and your family, you guys still go to church, or what do you do, or whatever, are you attending anywhere? And he's like, oh well, I watch so and so, online.
But are
right?
you connected?
Yeah, and I was like,
Right.
it was put it this way, it wasn't the answer I was looking for, you know what I'm saying? It
From
was
that
very,
person. Huh?
yeah, from that person,
From that
right? You know what I'm
person.
saying? It was very vague, and and in my mind, I said to myself, we don't go to church no more, right? That's
Yeah. You caught him off guard saying, where do you go to church?
And also, there's no way to be involved, or what I'm saying, or to actually, let's say, help or assist, right? With things, like we have some, activity here this morning. There's some things going on, whatever that, people are, setting up for later on, and you can't set up remotely, right? These are things that, that require, require us to be hands-on, right?
Right.
So very, as it's been each week, very, very interesting reading. Any comments just in general before we get to questions, thoughts?
When we first started this, I said, well, I can read, and then by the end of the day, I said, I didn't read my book today. Trying to catch up, but as you go through and maybe read a complete one, you're looking forward to the next day to see what the book has to say, and you start making time for that.
Yeah.
It's
So,
very motivational.
It is.
In the way that, and it makes you think about, like he was saying, we get so caught up in self, and it's not about us. It's about you. It's about you guys. It's
Right.
about the fellowship,
right.
and about pleasing God. That's pleasing God.
Right.
Yeah, that's the main. But we're selfish by nature.
We are.
So
Absolutely.
We
yeah.
are.
And it's tough. It's tough.
Yeah.
But it's not impossible.
Not impossible.
Yeah, because it continue, even though the topic of purpose, if you will, are kind of changing from week to week, or I should say the focus, if you will, but it still gets back to the same thing that that our purpose, is to glorify God, to do things that are to glorify God, that that only relate in that manner. And so, but it does take you to all different places as you read, because you start to consider, how am I handling, my family relation? I'm talking about, your blood family. How am I handling those relationships, right? How am I handling, my church family relationships? How am I handling, then when you get, into your immediate household, right? Good morning. How am I, how am I handling, my relationship with my children, with my spouse, with, and any other representation of family, anybody, who you are responsible for, blood or not, all of those things. And so it takes you to a place of really considering, where you're positioned in terms of purpose, right? And so And if you're not positioned, where you should be, or you realize that, the easiest thing is to, to, uh, you know, put a plan in place to, to do better,
To do
right?
better.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's not, it's not necessarily time for, a pity party to say, I've been so bad or so wrong or so anything like that. But what I'm saying, but just time to move forward and figure out, how do you improve it, right? Is it, and probably, it's going to be, just one conversation at a time. You know, it may be with the need to, forgive someone. It may be with the need to ask for forgiveness for someone, or whatever it takes in that situation to reconcile that relationship, right?
Right. I went back to the first of the book because we didn't get the book till late.
Uh-huh.
And the first couple of days on page 11 said a journey with the purpose and about your next 40 days. And it lists all the things that God did with different ones in 40 days, like Noah,
Yes,
Moses, the spies. Everybody was transformed within those 40 days of their life. It was very, very interesting. Teresa said the next 40 days will transform your life. So this is God. This is our 40 days.
Yeah. And also let you know that often we think that we don't have enough time for certain things, or you're too busy or whatever. But just from those examples, it lets us see that a lot can be done in a short amount of time. Now there are certain things that take a while, and certain things you have to allow the process to kind of follow its course, whatever.
Yeah.
But at the same time, there is some transformation that can happen in a short amount of time. We can, and one thing that we can do is that we can change our line of thinking in a short amount of time if we want to. Right? We can change our behavior in a short amount of time if we choose to. Right? And a lot of things are about our choices. Right? We continue to choose whether that be good or bad. Everything's a choice.
It's a choice.
Right? And so we get to the point like we talked about a couple of weeks ago of trying to make better choices on a regular basis, right? Which means that as human beings first, right? We're not going to make the right choice every time,
Right.
So our focus would be is to be in a mindset once again, going back to thinking about it from the standpoint of how does what I'm doing glorify God?
Mm-hmm.
How can it glorify God?
Right.
And that's going to be the basis or the foundation that's going to help us make that better choice. Because if we can identify that maybe what we're thinking about is contrary to God's will or contrary to glorifying God,
Right.
then maybe that puts us more in line with being able to make the right choice. Right? So this is a day 17. This is not in the review question, but this is a day 17 question to consider. It says, does my level of involvement in my local church demonstrate that I love and am committed to God's family?
Wow.
That's a good question.
You just say it one more time.
It says, does my level of involvement in my local church demonstrate that I love and am committed to God's family?
Yeah.
Well, if I had to be honest, I'd say no.
I
I mean, I tried and do some things, but it's not, no.
And why? And because I have a thought, but why do you think that would be? Not just in general, like what are and what I'm getting at is that what do you think that affects a person's level of commitment?
Health issues. That's one. problems,
say?
that I had
Health
issues.
issues.
You know, you want to go and you want to do and participate, but a lot of times you're not like able
Yeah.
to do. But I support, I pray, you know, for the efforts that they're doing, you
Right.
know, and always support them, whether it be with money or time or just pray for success, you know. But a lot of times, when I first came here, I told Faith this one, you know, I've been here 16 years come July. And when we first started out, well, I was just a ball of fire, you know, doing everything, helping and everything. But then when, I'm not dwelling on that this month, but when I started, my back started acting up and stuff, there's a lot of times I just don't feel like it. But I still participate, help, send a donation for whatever
Right,
they're
right,
doing,
right.
you know, and pray about it, you know, that much. But I really, really like being there physically
Mhm.
to help, you know, and stuff like that.
Right.
But that kind of cuts down on my commitment. It's not that I'm not committed, just at my level.
I
Like you
think
say, my
mine is
level is not.
priorities. I think
I was gonna say that
priorities.
it's my priority, especially
Yeah.
work.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say
And being
that,
lazy. I'm lazy.
yeah, I would say that for, you know, on one hand you have God not truly being a priority in someone's life.
Right.
Could be. I'm not saying for everyone, right? But I think from a more realistic standpoint, I think another thing that happens is I think people
Mhm.
people get in the way
Mhm.
of the commitment of, you know, what happens locally, right?
Distractions.
Because what happens is this is that because I think one of the thing about our discussion, the purpose of the class or whatever is to, of course you won't necessarily, you have to get to a trust factor, you have to feel comfortable with sharing, whatever, but it talks about the reason why people would gather in small groups in the reading, right? Because you can have a more deeper level of conversation, a more
Yes.
transparent conversation,
Transparent. Yeah.
and you can share things that you wouldn't normally, share.
Mhm.
And so
Mhm.
I think one of the simple things is that we don't get along with everybody.
Right.
That's a simple thing. And if I
It's in
don't,
here too. That's in here.
yeah, if I don't feel like being bothered with you, that is going to affect
Right.
my level of participation, right?
Right.
And so we fully understand that when it comes to being asked to do certain things or whatever, there are situations where we know that yes, as Christians we should be fully open and we should be loving and all of these good things, right?
Mhm.
But there are times when it depends on who's asking.
Right.
You know, I'm looking back at 17, and
They say
I know that we don't want to, we're not trying to, say we're quote this or quote that.
Yeah.
But I'm looking at that question, does my level of involvement, I just want you to think about that while I read this to you. Do you love each other? Do you
Right.
love the church? And I want you to think, because it says, does my level of involvement? We love the church. Do we pray for each other?
Right.
Do we encourage each other? And just think about it. When you're thinking about yourself, do you? Do you admonish each other?
Mhm.
Do you greet each other when you see them?
Right.
Do you serve each other?
Mhm.
And I'm looking at people that know these things fit you. Do you teach each other? And the only way to teach is not being the teacher sitting in the seat.
Right. Right.
What about your example?
Right.
What about, are you leaving something that somebody else can use and grow? Do you accept each other? Is there anybody that in this room maybe, that accepting others in the church? And I don't mean metropolitan. Those who have said, I believe
Right.
in the Son, in Jesus, and I have been baptized. I am a member of that one body. Do we accept them? Do you honor them? If there's a burden that you know about, do you go and try and to help, whether it's a personal burden of someone, whether it's there are words that at my age I have forgotten to say, bigger or whatever. Do you forgive each other? You have to be truthful with yourself.
True.
Do you actually forgive? And do you submit to each other? Are we devoted to each other? And I'm looking. And then when I go back and read, it says, it didn't say my level of involvement could use some growing,
Yeah.
but does my level that I do now, does it show that I really love you guys?
Right.
And that I am committed to this family, God? I think we can all say, yes, even
Yeah.
though, Father, help us in the ways that we need to grow. Honestly, if worship is going on, most of us sitting in here, we'll be in worship.
Right.
Okay, I mean, if you think about it, I don't feel right unless I am headed to worship when I'm
Right.
supposed to be there.
Amen.
And I want us to think about it in that sense when you're answering,
Yeah.
does my level of involvement in my local church right here, does it show that I love all of you,
Yeah.
that I am committed to this family of God?
Yeah.
I think we can say yes to that. Even though I don't think there's anybody here that if something was happening to a person, we may not even say good morning to them every time that we do. But if I get a call and you say, I'm saying, where do you live? What can I do? So we got to think about it in terms of, we're not perfect.
Right.
We are so far from being perfect. But God knows that.
Yeah. And I think some of those questions individually that Sister Hagood mentioned, that truthfully, the answer to a lot of them would probably be some, right?
Yeah.
And I would say some based upon the fact of kind of this whole thing or this whole section that we're in here, talking about how we fit in God's family, but that within that, a lot of these situations are relational. It's about our relationships, right? And so when she said, do you encourage? And probably the answer would be yes. Some people, right? Do you teach? Some people. Do you, right? Because in the family, we have relationships, right?
Right.
And so it's similar to, it's like when you're a kid, growing up in your household, right? It is almost impossible to be close to someone that your parents never took you around.
That's right.
You don't have,
Even other family members.
yeah, what I'm saying, you don't have any control over that, right? You can't say like, oh, well, I'm close to, Uncle so-and-so, Aunt so, right? And I never met him before, right? But the people who were at your house on a regular basis, or you went to that, those are the people you had a chance to develop a relationship with. So I think, like Sister Hagood said, in a broad sense, am I committed to the family as a whole? Absolutely, right? And within the family, are there people who I am closer to than others? Absolutely, right? But still within that doesn't, and I agree with it, doesn't necessarily, because you don't have close relationships with certain people, that does not diminish your level of commitment, right? It doesn't say that you're not committed, right? Especially with, just how we, even how we operate here at Metro, right? If you're not a, let's say, if you're not a regular, attendee at 8 o'clock service, there's some members that only come to 8 o'clock service, and there's some members that only come to 11, right? And so the person who I haven't met before, not any less committed to them, in the family, I just don't know them, right? So I wouldn't be, any less committed to, to teaching them in class, right? But if I don't know you, so I believe that we have to be, not to be so critical, right, of ourselves, right? And we understand there are factors, things like health, laziness, can come into play or whatever, but that kind of goes into everything that we do. Yes.
Does it make us irresponsible when we're not being proactive though, with say trying to reach out and make relationships, build relationships. If I'm shy and I'm just not that person, I'm not aggressive,
Right.
and I don't, does that make?
I wouldn't say irresponsible. I wouldn't necessarily use that term, but in us fulfilling God's purpose, it never says that us walking in purpose will mean that we'll always be comfortable. And so I think sometimes that we will have to get out of our comfort zones. We will have to shake, an element of shyness or whatever it is, or uncomfortableness to do what we know needs to be done, right? And so, and it's also, there's different ways to reach out as well. You may not be a talker, or you may not be a caller because you feel like, you don't know the person like that or whatever, but you do have the ability to, get an address,
Right.
and say, I'm going to send you something, right? Or whatever, or, however that looks, right? So I believe that you can be comfortable in your uncomfortableness. You can find a way to navigate in a way that, that allows you to be comfortable for yourself, but also allow you to, because we can't continue not to connect with people, because I'm shy, right? I just keep using that as an example. There could be, other reasons, or whatever, but as part of being Christians, that's the way that we operate. Like I was reading something during the week, and so it was talking about how, we should not be surprised by or be judgmental in the fact that, when the world is acting like the world, we can, be all, just, up in arms about it, right? And so, it was kind of saying like, we shouldn't be like that in that manner, because why are we surprised? The world is acting like the world because they're the world.
Right.
So why are we, why are we so judgmental and looking down our nose when someone is acting like what they are, right? And so, we're far more accepting and we will allow, we don't have any problem with fire being hot, right? We allow water to be wet, right? But we won't allow, someone who doesn't necessarily operate like us to operate the way they operate. And I'm not saying allow. I'm talking about, where we come in with a heavy amount of judgment for someone being
Let them be who
what they are, right? And it's also by that same premise that which is the reason I think it's even one of the questions or whatever, or maybe I just read it, but it also talks about how we as Christians in that same manner, how we can become hypocritical, as well, and it's because of that, by that same separation, that people in the world, will watch us closely and not, and not want to deal with us, right? Because now we've taken on this, it's us versus them, right? And if you're supposed to be so different than me, then why do I find you in some of the same situations, type of thing, right? Instead of allowing us, to be all and be sinners, like, and the only difference is that, is that we've been cleansed by the blood of Christ, and that, we have forgiveness of our sins, and we've been reconciled back to God. But we're not, we are supposed to be different, but we aren't different in that manner, as if, we're some, other than humanly, godly saint angel walking on the, and so, that was very interesting to to say, when you view it like that, and not saying that things won't still be impactful, not saying that they won't still be hurtful and all of these things or whatever, but we aren't necessarily that we shouldn't be surprised by a dog bite. Got teeth, bite, right?
They say my dog won't bite you back either.
Yeah.
Also, I think it's on in day 18. It has a question: what one step can I take today to prevent another believer at a more genuine, heart to heart level? Christians, we have all types of personality.
Yeah.
Some of us talk a little. Some of us talk too much. Some of us are more open.
Yeah.
Some of us are quiet. But we all should be merciful. Mm-hmm. And if there is a one among us, for instance, that you might don't, instead of sitting back judging, just go up and start a conversation. That's what we should do for those, because we love each other.
Yeah.
So we have to be merciful and loving in our contact with each other. And I might say, hi, my name is Irene, and Deborah might say that I'm Deborah. Welcome, Deborah. That's a good start. So the next time I see her, hi, Deborah. How have you been? I continue trying to find a relationship because I have seen that she is quiet, right, and doesn't say a lot. But we have to be committed, and we are committed. Because we do. We go up and we talk to one another, but we have to try to form relationships with those that we do see.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. You too. Sorry, that's our little thing. Yes. But this is what we do. And if we're in the pandemic and you haven't heard from seen them or they're not, you'll call them.
Yeah.
Hello, Janelle. I didn't see your name on the list.
Yeah.
And this is the way I can talk to you because we formed a relationship. So that's what I'm saying is I have to be committed, to want to be committed.
True.
To the others who are in this family with me. And so,
because like you said, the pandemic has created a lot of independence, if you will. Disconnected, right? And also, it's just that and you never know why someone's not here, right? So I think sometimes people are reluctant to kind of you don't want to jump the gun and assume that something is wrong, right? Just not here, out of town, right? Maybe not feeling well today, or maybe just still in the realm of staying safe, right? But in that, I still feel that we continue to get more and more disconnected as time goes on, right? And I know for myself that coming back to the assembly, I'm literally, honestly, there's been people that have walked in, and I've said to myself, I forgot they even were here. Right, for real. Yeah, and once again, you're talking about you're still talking about things being relational, right? So of course, the people that you were close to prior to the pandemic, you've never forgotten about, right? But it's the people that you see on a weekly basis that you only speak to, right? Good morning. How are you? How you doing, right? And it's only in passing, right? Meaning that I don't have any connection or or relationship with you, which also causes, once again, it does not diminish your level of commitment, but it does affect whether or not or where they're place, like we talked about earlier, in terms of priority, which means that if you're really not on my radar, it doesn't necessarily cause me to miss you either, right? We're just being honest, right? It's like anybody else you've seen, right? And you have to, that you don't have that type of relationship with, and of course you're saying, well, yeah, if you were in front of me, or whatever, I would do whatever you need, or whatever the case may be. So I'm not ignoring you in that manner, but at the same time, it talks about in this reading as well. It talks about us how we make time. How we have to make time, and that's a difficult thing, right? Even for us, we have not just us, but I mean probably a lot of congregations. People you're spread all over. You live in different directions and all. These types of things or whatever. And so with that, making time, and I'm talking about outside of our regularly scheduled meetings, could be somewhat difficult, right? And it goes back to us. We would have to choose. I'm going to choose to make time, for this or whatever's going on. And yeah, you can take it. Yeah. Go ahead. Yeah. Yeah, we're gonna keep going anyway. I mean, we're almost finished, but you can go ahead and take it.